Zooey Mama! How's it going, everybody? I'm here today to help you decide if you should purchase the March Season Pass to get Hope Summers, the Season Pass card. And if you do, I've got 3 deck examples that I'm going to show you that you could try playing with her right after she's released, okay? And I'm going to give my final thoughts on Hope, how good she is, how fun she is, and if she is just worth getting. So to start off, Hope Summers is a 3-cost, 4-powered card with the ability that after you play a card here on her location, you get +1 energy next turn. And again, the season starts March 5th. There's also the new card Pixie coming out right when the season starts. Pixie will be in Spotlight caches while Hope Summers is the Season Pass card. And I do have a separate video for Pixie, so stay tuned for that one to come out. But Hope is very interesting. I mean, she's got a decent stat line, 3-4, right? Nothing to cry about. That's like the kind of standard 3-cost. But with ramp, and we just had Corvus, who is 3-5, and he would give you +1 energy permanently, but he discard 2 things from your hand, so he's a bit more niche. Hope, you don't really need anything specific, and there's no drawback, okay? Electro limits you to only being able to play 1 card per turn. Hope doesn't do that, and Hope doesn't discard anything like Corvus. She just lets you get more energy, kind of like Psylocke, but you can trigger her over and over, and you can trigger her multiple times in the same turn. So just up front, she's good, right? Just from her stat line and her ability that doesn't really have a drawback. She's by no means, a bad or horrible card because she doesn't really hurt your deck. So let's get into the real good, bad, and ugly for Hope Summers. So to start with the good, first up, that she's energy ramped with flexible conditions like I mentioned. I mean, you just need to play cards on her lane. You could play stuff that then moves away, so it gives them more space to play more things, but you don't need anything specific, okay? You just play her and play other stuff on top of her. You can trigger multiple times in one turn, and so if you did play Hope, maybe on turn 3 or 4, and on turn 5, let's say you played 3 cards on her lane. That means on turn 6 you have 9 energy. That's crazy, okay? Even turn 7 could be 10 energy. I mean, this might just unlock some new kind of big wombo combo that's previously not possible, because how else are you going to get 9 energy unless it's through some wild location? Okay, cards like Psylocke, X23 you can trigger multiple times, but it's kind of difficult and you're limited to destroy. And then, Electro, Corvus, they just give you +1, but Hope can give you +2 or +3 for one specific turn, and that's very special. She is a 3-cost card, which means she can work in Silver Surfer decks, and they often run Sarah, so they're happy to have some energy ramp there. And she doesn't get countered by Mobius. In fact, she doesn't really get countered by anything. I mean, there's really not much because she's not on reveal. Your opponent might play Cosmo in the lane because they know you're going to play cards there, so maybe they play Cosmo to stop those cards. But she's not ongoing. They can't remove her ability with, Enchantress or Rogue. They just can't really stop it. Unless your lane gets full, I mean, you're going to get the trigger, okay? And Mobius doesn't stop her again because she's ramping energy. She's not giving any kind of discount. So very consistent ability there, and, hard for your opponent to deal with. In terms of the bad, so board space might be an issue, okay? I mean, if you do fill her lane to get energy, then you might have it full on turn 5, which means turn 6 your opponent would know that you can't add any power there. So this may mean you're gonna play more cards that can move around, something like Nightcrawler or Jeff or Vision, where you can play on her lane and then move it away, to get the bonus, similar to what you would do in like old Angela or Elsa decks. But board space might be an issue. Even if you do that, you're moving away Jeff, you're moving away Nightcrawler, it is filling up your other locations as well. Another aspect in terms of deck building is figuring out what you want to ramp into, because a lot of ramp decks have a bunch of really expensive cards. Okay, you think of an Electro deck, you might have like Electro and Wave, and maybe there's like Nebula or Sunspot or something for a cheaper card. But other than that, it's basically all like 5 and 6 cost cards, right? Because once you get the energy boost, you can now just play these huge cards a turn early. And with Hope Summers, you're hoping to try and play these big cards early, but you are going to need to have cheap cards in your deck to trigger her. Okay, you could just play 1 card on her each turn. You could just play a 4-cost card on her. Turn 5, play a 6-cost card on her. But you are going to kind of have to mix and match, I think. You're going to need some cheaper cards. So I think you can't just put her in like a full ramp list. It's got to be a bit cheaper, maybe more of a hybrid style, where you're hoping to get more energy, but to play multiple things each turn. And then lastly, as I mentioned with the Cosmo interaction, where they might Cosmo the lane to stop any on-reveal cards you play there, it tells your opponent where you're going to play. Okay, so this could help out your opponent if they're trying to clog you, if they're trying to play Galactus. It doesn't really help out with Alioth because you don't need to play on Hope Summers lane on turn 6, although you might have filled the location early, which would help Alioth for a different lane. But it just gives your opponent some intel, and I don't know, maybe they start playing Jean Grey to try and counter Hope, although I don't think that works too well. But you're giving your opponent some intel, but really there's not much bad. I mean, for Hope, these things I'm saying, are bad. They're really just things to think about. The good is really good, and the downsides are pretty minimal. Okay, there's nothing really here that just gets hard countered. She doesn't just get destroyed or wrecked by something. Maybe Loki decks are good against her if your deck is just focused on ramping into big stuff. If your opponent plays Loki, they're just going to get your big stuff, right, for a discount as well. So if she's being played in decks that aren't really synergistic and get countered by Loki, then that could be a possible bad. But really, she's just pretty strong. So to start off with the first of 3 decks that I'll be running with Hope Summers immediately after her release. First up, I've got this Hope You Like My Junk deck. Pretty clever, huh? Come on. Anyways, it's a nice junk package. It's not a Galactus deck, although you could run Galactus. I prefer no Galactus and just hitting your opponent with Alioth when they're trying to play around Galactus anyways. And so we've got a nice package here where we have Ravana to give discounts to our Green Goblin and Hobgoblin. We've got lockdown aspects. Ravana will also discount our Professor X and Havoc, and we can move Jeff into Professor X's lane as well. And then, we do have the classic Sentry, the Hood, and a Nihilist combo. We do have Selene in here because she can hit the Hood, Green Goblin, and Hobgoblin. So really Hope Summers can work here because if you did get her down on turn 3, turn 4, you can look to play Goblins on her lane. You will get the energy bonus, and then the Goblin will get sent over. And you could also just look to play maybe Selene and a Goblin, or Jeff and Havoc or something. Okay, Havoc normally can be detrimental because he's keeping you at an energy cap. Once you play him, you stop getting more energy. But if we have Hope Summers, we kind of recoup some of that lost energy. So I'm excited to see how that interaction works. If Hope Summers is enough to really bring Havoc to light, and especially if we get out, Havoc plus Professor X on turn 5, even if we did that on Hope Summers' lane, then we would still have 6 energy on turn 6 for Alioth, okay, even though we played Havoc. So I'm interested to see how well Hope Summers does in here. It's kind of easy to trigger her, get an energy bonus. We'll see how impactful that bonus is. Next up, I've put Hope Summers in a Silky Smooth list. So Angela and Kitty Pryde, they had taken some really big nerfs, but I'm going to see if they can make it back, okay? We do have Angela, Kraven, or Elsa being the go-to turn 3 play here. Then you can play Hope Summers. If you have Angela or Elsa, you play Hope Summers in their same lane. If you have Kraven down, you play Hope Summers in a different lane. And then you're just going to play stuff on top of Hope that can then move away. Okay, so we've got Spider-Man, we've got Vision, we've got Jeff, Nightcrawler, and then we've got Kitty Pryde, who we can just keep replaying. So in this case, Elsa, Angela, and Hope all get benefit when you play Kitty Pryde there over and over, or play something there that then moves away. Okay, and then the curve is kind of nice because you're either doing Elsa or Angela, and then Hope on top. And so these cards are going to get extra power when they fill the lane from Elsa, or they will be powering up Angela, and they're giving you extra energy, and then you can move them into Kraven's lane, or you can even move your opponent's cards using Arrow or Magneto into Kraven's lane. So this deck, it's just going to add a lot of power to the board, and it can get to hard to reach locations because you got stuff that moves, and it's just gonna be kind of annoying to deal with. There's not really many Shang-Chi targets except for Magneto, who's coming down probably the last turn anyways. So I'm excited for this deck as well. And last up, I've got a high Evo lockdown list. Now, there's a lot of high Evo decks out there, specifically high Evo Shinnot. I personally like playing kind of the cheaper style lockdown list where I go to play Storm on turn 4, Legion on turn 5, pretty cheeky lockdown combo to just clear the board, lock it down for turn 6, and then let your Sunspot, Nebula, Misty Knight, power up as they're on the board. So high Evo decks like extra energy, and Hope Summers gives extra energy, and the high Evo decks do have a lot of cheaper cards. I mean, we've got Sunspot, Nebula, and Misty Knight, and I even put the Wasp in here. On turn 3, you could play Hope Summers and the Wasp on the same turn to then already get the +1 energy. On turn 4, you would have 5 energy. And so here, the goal is still lockdown. So maybe, turn 1, turn 2, you're looking to play these 1-cost cards. Turn 3, you can play Cyclops or Hope. Turn 4, you play Storm. If you do have Hope Summers down, you can play Storm on top of Hope, so you get +1 extra energy. So turn 5, you have 6 energy. And if you do play Legion, you're still letting Sunspot power up or Misty add power somewhere because you're still floating energy. And then obviously the last turn you'll float more energy and you can still play Jeff somewhere. So I think Hope is going to find some home in a high Evo deck, whether it's the list like this or a high Evo Shinnot or just some other kind of high Evo decks. I mean, just being able to get constant extra energy seems really good for Hope. The only downside I think is that she does compete with Cyclops, but he's best played on turn 4 anyways when you are already floating 1 energy. So maybe Hope turn 3, Cyclops turn 4 just becomes a common combo. Alright, so to get into my final reviews and ratings for Hope Summers, while we look at this very cool Pandart Studio variant that anyone who gets a season pass will get. It'll be the level 50 season reward for Hope Summers. In terms of being fun, I think she's pretty fun. Okay, it's not some game-breaking ability that just creates this entire new archetype, but I think she, fits into a lot of existing combos and stuff where you play on her and then, move the card away. Those are just interactions. You are having to think a bit when you play. Do you want to play on her lane, potentially filling it up? Do you play on a different lane when you don't need the extra energy for the next turn, and that way you leave space on her? I mean, there's going to be some decision making, okay? She's not just a simple play here, add big power card, okay? And she's going to be played in some combo decks. I think people are going to test out some Wong shenanigans where you do have 9 energy on turn 6 and just some crazy stuff. So I'm excited for that. I think she's going to be a lot of fun. In terms of being flexible, I think she's okay. I think she can actually fit into a lot of decks. In that case, maybe she's more of like a 3-star card, but I think she adds her best value in a bit more of a selected choice of decks. Okay, so while you could technically put her in everything because she doesn't need direct synergy, you do want to make sure you can get benefit out of the extra energy. Okay, the juice has to be worth the squeeze. If you're just playing her on 3, on turn 4 playing a 4-cost card on top of her, but then on turn 5 when you have 6 energy, still just playing a 5-cost card because your deck likes to play a specific 5-cost card, then you're not really using her, right? You're not really getting a great value out of her. So I think there's a couple ways you can go, but I don't think every deck is gonna find just an insane amount of value from her from that extra energy, because you still have to play there, and you are getting the boost a turn later. In terms of being competitive, I think she's strong. I'm not sure she's busted. I know a lot of people are thinking she might be overpowered and busted. I think there's potential for that, but I think given the fact that she comes down on turn 3, not super early, she's got a decent stat line, but your opponent's gonna know what you're up to. You do have to play stuff on her lane, I don't think it's going to be broken. Okay, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really strong. I think Hope's a good card. I really do. I think she's going to be strong. I think she's going to find one or multiple homes in the meta. She'll probably be in at least one pretty, high up meta deck and see some competitive play at higher levels for sure. But I'm not sure she's going to be busted. We're going to have to wait on see for that, but I am confident she'll be really good. And so I say she's worth getting. Listen, the season pass, if you do spend money on Marvel Snap, the season pass is the best thing to spend money on. Okay, it's just the most bang for your buck. It gives the most resources for your money that you can get in Marvel Snap. And Hope Summers is, no exception to that. And I think she's actually a really strong card. I think she's the strongest season pass card we've seen in a while. I think she's significantly better than Black Swan. I think she's better than Scar. I think she's way better than Sebastian Shaw. I think she's good. I think she's fun. She's, fairly flexible. She will fit a lot of different play styles, regardless of what decks you usually play. I do think you can get use out of her. And I just think she's going to be competitive. Okay, so if you never buy the season pass, then don't make me change your mind. But if you only buy it when it's a good card, I think this is a buy. I think Hope Summers is going to be good. And let me know what you think of Hope in the comments down below. What combos you're excited to play with her. Maybe you've got some weird, wacky stuff that you need a bunch of energy for. Or maybe you're going for more kind of consistent style like the decks I showed here. So let me know what you think. And until then, stay positive. I'll see you next time.